What is up, everybody? This is Pam again with 2200 Taps. I am joined today by a really good friend of mine, David. And before we get started, I just want to share that this podcast, we like to share a lot of stuff and talk about things that people just don't want to talk about. And it's really important, I feel, for our mission to help save lives is to really get down and dirty and talk about the stuff that's really sucky sometimes. And but with hopes that, you know, we can turn it around and share some hope at the end of these podcasts. That way we're not just stuck in the mud all the time. So if you stick with us, I really hope this podcast touches you and inspires you. And if so, share it with your friends and family. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So, David, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is David Pierce, and I met Pam through a really cool organization called Pathways Core Training. And basically, with this training, you kind of discover something about yourself, is that the one thing you have in common with any other given person is that everyone has a story. Everyone has a story to tell. They have a unique experience that they had in life. I had a pretty normal life. I, was a happy kid, had a happy childhood. I grew up to be a normal guy, I guess you could say. I love football. I love, girls. I love all the good stuff. But what really made me at the end of the day was a lot of the crap that I went through in my life on a daily basis. And so go ahead. No, I was just going to say, so that's a good segue. We talk about the last few guests that I've had on here before we get started. They've all gone through Pathways Core Training as well as I have. And you guys, this is a training that it's incredible. It helps save lives. It's fantastic. I mean, I wish everybody in the world can just experience this. And believe it or not, a few more of my guests are going to be Pathways graduates as well. And I'm finding out that a lot of these graduates are willing to come forward with their story because they know how much people need to hear it. They've been through the ringer. They've been on the edge of, taking themselves out. They've attempted and they've survived. And because of that, they want to share their story to share that there's hope. And David has willingly come today. He drove about an hour or so from his home to be here, which is amazing, to share his story and share something that was important on his heart to share with everybody else that not a lot of people get to hear. We hear it a lot in the training rooms, but we, without sharing too much of what happens in the rooms, we really want to share something that helps us, to be able to have our tools on the outside world and to deal with things that sometimes can get overwhelming. So let's just get right into it. So, David, what exactly is your story? What is it that you want to share today? Okay. And I'll start off by saying, when you first asked me, to tell a little bit about myself, I went directly into what I've been through. And I think that's one big change I've seen about myself is when I meet someone new, when I'm making an acquaintance, when I'm getting to know a coworker, my gut instinct is to talk about who I am because of who I was, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really healthy way I've grown into the man I have become, is because I'm not afraid to share where I've been and how I got to where I am. So that's what I really look forward to discussing today. But you're right. It started with that story. For me, I talked about my childhood. I had a pretty good childhood. I mean, divorced parents, but my family stayed my parents stayed very friendly with each other. There wasn't a lot of bad stuff around that for me as a child. I think I really have discovered later in life that I've learned a lot of behavior out of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of learned behavior and a lot of my past mirrors where I ended up, even though that childhood was very friendly.
Like how? Like what did that look like?
Man, something I discovered, and it took me a long time to discover, was cause my dad, God rest his soul, like I loved my dad to death. Like we were very close, very important person in my life. But the divorce, like, kind of showed me that was okay.
That what was okay?
That getting divorced was okay, or ending a relationship, or that you could, life goes on kind of thing.
Got it. Okay.
Like I witnessed that process, and I said, oh, well, it wasn't so bad for my mom and dad. Well, like and he went through 3 marriages. My mother was married 4 times. So there was not a lot of constant for me growing up around that, like family structure.
So what did that do to you as a little boy to see your mom go through 4 marriages, not having your dad there?
So
what did that do to you as a little boy?
What I witnessed as a boy was, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I've come to realize that my mom went through a lot of pain and suffering emotionally around that. She was dealt with infidelity in all 4 of her marriages. It just didn't go really well for her, and
you saw it.
And I saw it.
Yeah.
And to me, I just saw my mom being strong and keeping her chin up and moving on in most cases. But the older I've gotten, I've seen the demons she kind of had to deal with around that, and the pain it really put her through, and how lonely she can be now. And me being in the mindset I'm in now, that scares me a lot.
Yeah.
That I think I let a lot of that get to me, where I kind of felt like that could be me, So that was hard, and I'll get more into that with my story, upcoming. But it was difficult for me because I really looked up to my parents, and I always have only seen the best in them. I never held a grudge against them, or I never, like, it was always filtered for me. I never let that bad stuff get through, or any bad habits they might have been teaching me, or whether it's them basically, showing me what not to do, or if there is really such thing as what not to do. It was just very much a filtered process for me, where only the love got through for me, only the positive. I never let that weigh me down, but later in life, unfortunately, I did see that stuff show up through my actions. So I'll dive right into it.
Yeah.
My story really starts with my marriage, my previous marriage, and my infidelity. And I was with my ex-wife for 13 years. We were basically high school sweethearts. Had a good relationship overall. It was pretty dynamic. I mean, it was, we had our ups or downs, whatever. But overall, really positive experience. And when I went later in life, in my late 20s, I went back to college to pursue my bachelor's degree. And I kind of went through a real, just a life transformation. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this rut that I'm in at work. I'm tired of this rut I'm in life. I want something more for myself. Mm. And it was like my first experience at believing in myself in a way. I went out, enrolled in school, went to Tarrant County College, did my 2 years there, then went to UTA to achieve my bachelor's degree. And while I was in school, I met another young lady that I started a friendship with, and one thing led to another, and I started a relationship with her. And it got out of control really fast.
While you were still married?
While I was still married. Okay. I lost control of like being grounded in life, you know? And it blew up fast. It wasn't a thing that was like hidden for long or anything. I got found out pretty quickly. And to be honest, I don't even remember all the details in that, but like it was found out. Things got really chaotic in my home life, my marriage life. And one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I'm divorced. And marriage was something that I held very sacred. I grew up in a Christian household. She was very religious, my ex-wife. Catholic girl. I went to church with her for, 13 years. And that was like a big bonding thing for us, our faith. And I kind of let all that while I was over here working on myself, I was letting my morals go. It was a really confusing time for me. And I felt a lot of guilt in that, a lot of guilt. I think guilt was the first emotion, if you want to call it that, the first thing that I had to face when I did go through the Pathways program. That guilt just crippled me.
Was it the guilt over the infidelity?
Yes.
Okay.
The guilt of, it's like I was afraid to admit it, but the guilt of following in my dad's footsteps, like the bad part of my dad that I didn't want to let filter through.
So becoming your dad.
Yeah. And like that's why I kept emphasizing, like, I held my dad on a pedestal and only let the good things filter through. But it's like that was my deep dark, was that what I didn't want to be, kind of out in the corner, and I became that. And I remember having to tell my mom, and how guilty that made me feel, because I knew what she had been through, and I knew, I could relate that to my ex-wife too. Just seeing the disappointment on my mom's face crushed me. And I just, emotionally, I swept all of that under the rug at that time. I completely went on with life with the other woman. Moved in with her. Well, we moved in together. Started a life. For 3 years we were together. We lived, a very normal everyday life. We were happy. She was my, probably my best friend at that time. And we were very important to each other, but I could say for sure that we were never, I was never in love with her. It was just in the end, I guess where I'm trying to go with that is, in the end, I realized that was just a big Band-Aid that I was putting over the situation. So for me, like I woke up one day and I just knew. I knew I was a fraud. I knew the relationship was a fraud. I knew that it was never going to go anywhere. She had started talking about marriage and kids, and I knew I was taking advantage of her and wasting her time. And I had to sit her down, and I told her that as bluntly and openly as I could. Like, this is not fair to you. I'm not the man you're going to be with. Like, it can't be that way, because it would just be like completely false. And I broke her heart. So there, let's fucking pile some more guilt on the... Was
that after the training or before the training still that you broke it off?
Before the training. This is years ago, yes.
Okay.
So I lived with that too. And again, I try to compartmentalize it, push it to the side, sweep it under the rug, however you want to put it, and move on with my life. Mm-hmm. And all this time, like, my carpet's getting pretty full under there. Mm. And pretty soon that guilt started really taking a grip of my daily choices I would make, the way I was living my life. When that happened, I started seeking women that were bad for me. I started seeking out for toxicity. It's like if I could get hurt, the more the better.
Do you feel like that was a way you were, what do you call it? A way that you were kind of punishing yourself?
Yes, without a doubt, it was me like trying to actively punish myself. So I got immediately got in a really bad relationship. That wasn't even a relationship. That's a joke to even say. I let myself be used by someone who was involved with 2 or 3 other guys already. Someone who took like really bad financial advantage of me. Mm-hmm. She if there was a way I could be used, she used me. It was really sad,
and
really
okay
pathetic.
With it? You're totally fine with it.
At the time, I would literally lay in bed at night and say, "You fucking deserve this, David. You deserve every bit of this. This isn't even enough for you to go through. Like, just stick with it because you deserve this." And I was punishing myself. Like, there's no other way to put it.
I can't imagine how much hate you had for yourself in those moments.
It was like the pit of despair. And I just, we talk about tapes and pathways, things that play in the back of your mind that you tell yourself, kind of lies that you tell yourself, without your own permission. And man, the tapes that were playing for me were, fucking loser. That's what you deserve, nothing but dark shit.
See, and that blows my mind because I know you. I was actually in your training, so I got to see a different side of you than when you first walked in the rooms. Very raw. I had already seen a side of you where you were putting in that hard work, and I saw a side of you where you loved yourself. And till this very day, and I've known you over a year, that's the only side I've ever seen of you.
Yeah.
And I see an authentic man, and it just, like I said, it blows my mind to think that you were in that bad of a headspace, because I could never see you treating yourself that way.
Yeah.
I could never see it. But, well, let me ask you this. Is that what ultimately led you going into the training?
It's actually not. It got worse for me.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep digging.
All right. So, basically, and I could talk about that relationship for hours, but basically, in a nutshell, that relationship was that was me being used and me just continuing to allow it. No matter what family said, no matter what friends said, no matter what I told myself, even in my moments of clarity, like, I just kept getting hit. I just kept rolling with the punches. Yeah. So, let's fast forward a little bit. She took advantage of me really bad, financially speaking. Put me in a lot of debt with credit cards, a lot of debt outside of my credit cards. We're talking like tens of thousands of dollars. She put me in situations to try to get me in altercations with her ex, and it was like
it's very toxic.
Yes,
it's very toxic.
Extremely toxic. And I, like I said, I won't go into all the detail, but I ended up getting a knife pulled on me in a bar by her ex. It was just
lovely.
It got to the point where I had a wake up call around that relationship, around that woman, and it's like it got so bad for me that I just had a gut check, like, you can't continue fucking doing
You need to come to Jesus moment, huh?
Yes. So I just literally stepped away completely. I stepped away. I got in a little bit better headspace. I started, or I thought, let's just say, I thought I got in a little better headspace. So I started, at that time, I started smoking more, drinking more. I started...
smoking what?
Well, like, just cigarettes.
Or just cigarettes?
Yeah, just, okay. I mean, like...
I didn't know if you started going down that path.
No, like, never got into drugs, but I started drinking more.
Okay.
I started, like, going out, like, kind of where I should have been getting my act together with the rest of my life, my personal life, my professional life, whatever. Mm-hmm. I just started, like, dealing with things in a different way.
Started spiraling?
That felt less dark to me, but, yeah, it was leading me to a spiral. That was a really good way to put it. So I ended up, just, like, talking to a different girl every week, like, drinking, going out at the bars all the time. When you start knowing the bartenders' names and the people there and they start knowing you.
Start making a drink after you and shit.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a really weird feeling when I've never been that guy before.
Yeah.
And I kind of floated through that space for a while. And I ended up meeting a girl through my cousins, through some family, family and friends. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a good thing. Because it was like, she was in that mindset. Hey, let's just have fun. Let's do our thing. Let's, life can be okay. We're just over here partying, And to me, that was better than being in my depressed, laying in bed.
Right.
Beating myself over the head. So I chose that. Let's go drink. Let's go have fun. Let's go live it up. Life with her. And we ended up being in a relationship for a couple of years, a little over a year, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. We moved in together. That was who I was with when I went through the training.
Okay.
So I had gotten to a place where I thought I was getting better because life felt more stable. Life felt more normal for me. I had a home. I had, like, someone. But she was being unfaithful to me.
It's interesting.
Which I had finally gotten over that with punishing myself. But here we were back again when I was confronted with the fact that...
You're on the flip side of it.
Yeah. Well, and I did not like that at all. And that's when a lot of anger stuff started coming up for me.
Okay. Where
I think all that shit I had swept under the rug kind of finally started to
coming
boil
out?
over. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just got worse and worse and worse. This was just as toxic as the last one.
So what did that anger look like? I'm curious.
For me, the anger, and now we're getting back into my path into the training, into pathways.
Okay.
I'll give you a very specific example of what that anger looked like. We had a get-together at our house one night. Several people. We had gone bar hopping and ended up back at our place. And some friends of friends ended up at the house. It was like 3 a.m. And I had gotten really, like, jealous over a friendship that she had with someone else, with one of her exes, who happened to be in our little circle of people we hung out with. And there was a moment when I got really pissed at him inside the house, walked outside the house into the garage, and there was a friend of a friend there. I said, everyone get the fuck out of the house. Everyone left or started to leave, except for this one guy that I didn't know. And he gave me some attitude, talked back to me basically, like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Whatever, I said, get the hell out. He got an attitude with me, so I basically, I punched him in the face. I broke his face, basically, because I, like, unloaded everything.
You beat the shit out of him?
Yeah. And sent the guy to the hospital. I just unloaded everything all the rage and the anger and the pain and the guilt and the crap that I'd been through, I took out on this guy that I didn't even know. And the sad part of it, I wasn't even mad at him. I was mad at the other guy. You know, like I had no control. It was just a complete spiral in my life. And that was the moment for me when I was getting arrested for the first time in my life. I was going to jail. I was in jail for 3 days. I had 2 no-call, no-shows at the city.
They pressed charges on you?
That I worked at. Yeah, he pressed charges on me. He called the cops. They basically, I had worked at my job for 14 years, and I lost my job. I was on probation for an anger outburst I had in my office.
Oh, jeez.
About a month before. That was, this is when the spiral was in full swing.
Yeah.
So when I had the no-call, no-shows, I was on probation for something already, and they let me go. So now we're talking about I'm facing an assault charge, a felony charge. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 14 years working towards a retirement, 14 years with the company growing from the ground up, gone.
Your relationship?
My relationship, just realizing, like having a revelation about what my relationship really is. And it was in that moment, basically the aftermath of that I approached who ended up being my sponsor. She had mentioned in passing about Pathways a few times to me since my father had died. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even get into that, but that kind of happened right in the middle of the spiral. So that really...
So you had a lot of loss.
Yes.
Including your dad.
Yes.
So shit, who wouldn't blow up? Who wouldn't go sideways,
Yeah.
When you're just self-medicating with booze and women. And,
absolutely.
And
even the people that want to help you, want to talk things through or just give you a little advice or whatever, like just being an absolute brick wall to that. Because I got this.
I understand that. Because I, too, was fired once for workplace violence.
Nice.
I was still in the Coast Guard, too, but it wasn't the Coast Guard. It was when I joined the reserves, I got a civilian job, and there's some harassment there, and I punched a toolbox and got fired for workplace violence, which that's not, it's not what this is about. But I can relate when it comes to beating the shit out of something that didn't deserve it, even though it wasn't a person.
Yes.
And losing your job over it. So, first of all, thank you for sharing all that, because
no problem.
That's, you guys can't see it, and I really wish y'all could see their faces when they're telling the story, because I saw it in your eyes. I saw you tearing up. It's in deep breaths. It's hard, even till this day, even with the training, it's still hard to say certain things.
Yeah.
But real quick, so how did you overcome all of that, or most of it, or overcoming it? How did you do it?
For me, it was all the things that we do in the training aside. What it boils down to for me was I realized what was missing. It wasn't something I needed to do per se. It was something that I was missing in my life. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a very big moment I had for me outside of the training classrooms.
What was missing?
And it was realizing that I had lost my faith along the way. So
your faith in your higher power?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, that was the key to me letting go and moving on.
That's big.
It was huge for me. Because in a lot of ways, because part of my guilt from my previous marriage, from, a lot of that was, I felt like a failure to God, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was just allowing that grace back into my life. Just accepting that was huge for me.
So, in those moments, we're actually going to take a break here in a second. But in those moments when you feel yourself, or do you even get to that point where you feel like you're about to explode? If you do, how do you acknowledge it? How do you work through it? Or if you don't get to that point anymore, what are you doing differently?
Okay.
You know?
Definitely because I've removed all of that toxicity from my life. First of all, that makes all the difference right there. I mean, it really does. I removed the toxicity, which, you know, when you get rid of toxic situations, and I found a new relationship since, a new woman in my life. I have like all the good things going on right now when it comes to love and to my relationship. So when you replace that toxicity with these good things in your life, that the things I dealt with before, like the anger and stuff, they're that emotion, there's no need for it anymore. It has no place in my life. There are times, a lot of my stuff that I still deal with, that we'll get into a little bit more, still revolves around the trust issues, that guilt. Some of that guilt I still cling on to a little bit. So for me, when I have those moments where, oh, hey, things aren't adding up here, like one little detail's off, or, you know, oh, she's taking too long to get back with me. And those tapes will pop in and start playing in the back of my head saying, you know, high alert, something's wrong, you know, you're getting screwed over again, whatever. In those moments, I've really, going back to my faith, I've taken a moment and just kind of meditation, prayer, just for a second, just go to a good place. And that's helped a lot. A lot of those moments are, they come and go like that. You know, it's a split-second thing, whatever, you know, and I chew it on and I don't let it take root. But when it does, I go to prayer. I've learned to face them immediately. Like, if something triggers me, I'm just going to, let's have a conversation about it.
I'm going to stop you right there because I like what you just said. You're going to face them immediately. That is so powerful. That's a powerful statement, and it's so simple. Because a lot of us, we just turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah. Or under the rug,
or
like I said
sweep
before.
it under the rug.
Yeah.
But if you can nip it in the butt, right when it happens, or shortly after, with yourself or with someone else, it almost feels as though it's, like you said, just you deal with it and you move on. I'm glad you said that, because I think people need to hear that.
So that's been a really empowering tool in my arsenal now, is the ability to look my problems in the eye and step up and face them. And it makes a big difference, because it's not necessarily even a problem. It's not necessarily a big thing, but it was enough to trigger something within me. So let's have a conversation about it.
But to your point, it can turn into a big thing.
And it can, yeah.
Like you said,
without a doubt, it can
fester. It was all these little things that you swept under the rug that made you beat the shit out of this guy that just so happened to dummy jack you in a sense.
And for no 2-3 years before that, just really beat the shit out of myself internally.
Yeah. But because you allowed it to get so big, you lost everything.
Yes, absolutely.
You lost everything.
And to look back in hindsight, knowing that was all part of the plan that had to play out for me to get to where I was going, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
it didn't feel like it then, I'm sure, but
it didn't at the time. It was pretty scary stuff. But yeah, that's a big thing I can do now is face it, deal with it, and move on.
I like that. All right, guys. Well, I think we need a little break after that one, because I'm feeling it myself. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about something pretty special, and something that David really wants to talk about that's on his heart. And so you guys stay tuned, and we will be back. Welcome back, everybody. This is Pam again with 2200 Taps. Please excuse my voice. I'm getting over pneumonia. I don't sound like a teenage boy anymore. Like there for a hot minute, I sounded like like Peter Brady. But we're good. So, kind of circling back around, I've got David here with us on our podcast, and he is again another friend of mine who's willing to share his story, and he really wanted to bring something special to the table about something that's been working for him, with hopes that we can share it with everybody else, and kind of give away a little nugget that we learned in the training without giving away the training. But real quick, let me see here. We talked about his story, how he overcame it. So my next question to you is basically what 2200 Taps is all about, is healing through music. You know, my personal mission is to help save lives. I've got the bug, and I really want to share with the listeners, you know, how music is healing. Okay. And my question to you is, has music been healing to you? And if so, how?
Okay, so the first thing that came into my heart when you brought that up was there is a particular song that has had a huge impact on me during my training. And it literally ties directly into what I want to discuss today.
What song is that?
So the song is If I Can Dream by Elvis Presley.
It's a great song.
It's a really good song. So this song has a particular lyric in it that really positively affected me. And it is, but as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. And that is a lyric that like really just hit me right in the gut. And when I heard the song for the first time, I honestly thought to myself, man, this song really blows. I had never heard it before. It was a really slow, drawn out song. But the more you listen to it, the more you feel the passion in that lyric.
Do you know the story behind it?
Yes, I've actually read up a little bit on the story behind it. Which, if you want to share, that's awesome.
Share real quick? So, the story behind it, this song was written during the Civil Rights Movement, and right around the time of Martin Luther King, Robert F. Kennedy assassinations. And the guy that wrote it pitched it to Elvis Presley to sing it. And Elvis was so moved by not just the words, but the whole movement and the assassinations. He was so affected by it. When they were in the studio recording it with everybody, all the backups and everything, it was very emotional. It was a very emotional time. And everybody, from what I read, everybody left with the exception of Elvis Presley and the guy in the control booth. And Elvis wanted to re-record the vocals. So, story goes that he turned all the lights off in the room, started singing the song, and he ended up on the floor and in the fetal position crying while he was singing the song. Came back to the control booth, heard it like 14 or 15 different times with the engineer, and he's like, that's the take. So what we hear is him actually breaking down and crying in that song. And it's so moving. I get goosebumps just talking about it.
Absolutely.
And hearing it and watching people just embrace that song. And that is what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Putting music to your story, elevating your sound, and being able to affect people the way his lyrics have or the song has affected you. Anyhow, I just thought it was a cool story. And
absolutely, and I'm glad you shared that.
Very passionate.
It is a really cool thing. But going back to that lyric, I mean, the lyrics are powerful, but just reading into that lyric, but as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. And going back to what we talked about earlier, the thing I found that was missing in my life was my faith. Mm-hmm. And it was like I had given up on the dream that I could have a normal life, that I could be happy, that I could be loved. And it wasn't until I allowed myself to dream again that I landed in a place where I could find my faith, have that impactful moment in my life, have a truly Holy Spirit come to Jesus moment, and be ignited with this passion to be better. And that's really what I had talked about Pam having the discussion about was how that ignited a desire within myself to promote change within my life, and positive change, like truly positive change. Mm-hmm. And I've discovered a lot of tools through the Pathways program, a lot of tools with books I've read, podcasts I've listened to, a lot of really good input and feedback about that very topic. So I just really like to talk about, what it is to set a goal to promote change within your life. Mm-hmm. And where it all starts for me is like basically all change starts with a goal, right? Mm-hmm. Like you set a goal, you write that down and it becomes a plan. Isn't that the thing? A dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action becomes a reality. That seems really simple, right?
That's awesome.
So when you read that and you're like, oh, that's 3 steps. That should be pretty simple. Well, there's a lot that goes into that. But the fact is, it literally is that simple. You have to put in the hard work, and you have to play hard. But it is that simple if you really set your mind to it. So for me, that being said, from what I've gathered is I made 2 notes. First of all, a goal is a head thing. I think a goal is a head thing. You really have to think about it. You have to think about how you can put that into motion, how you can set that into a plan, and then like we talked about, put that into action. Mm-hmm. So a goal is a head thing, and it's your head wrapping around a change. That's how I think about it. A goal is your head wrapping around a change, where a dream is your heart's desire for that change.
I like that.
The dream is at the heart level, I think, which is the deepest level where you really have to dig, and you have to find that desire for change at that gut level, that heart level, before your head can even attempt to wrap around it.
It's like making a plan. What do you want at the heart? Like, what is your passion? What do you want to do with this one life? Mm-hmm. And then you got to get your head involved on your steps and your action steps and how that's going to look.
But to get to your vision, that comes from the heart level, and that's your dream. That's how I kind of
like that.
Picture it in my head. So again, 3 steps. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action becomes a reality.
By action.
Yes, by action. That's the hard part, people. Mm-hmm. So
some people don't like change.
Exactly. So right before the break, you had asked me about kind of some of the ways that some of the tools I use to keep myself from going to that angry place or whatever. Some of the action items for how I deal with the changes I've made. And for me, it's not so much of a making the change. I'm very willing to make changes in my life. I'm very actively seeking ways to make changes in my life and better myself, and my relationship with God, my relationship with my fiance. I'm actively seeking that change, and that means I'm actively dreaming about how I can be better, bigger, how I can change other people's lives. That's why, even though I was scared to do so, I accepted your challenge to come on here, you know?
I'm so glad you did.
Because it was pushing me to do different, to think, you know, to do an action that's way outside of my box.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd gladly left my comfort zone in order to grow. Even since we started, I was kind of a nervous wreck when we started, and I felt like I was mumbling and bumbling, and now it's
all right.
And now I just feel like very at ease and very like myself now. So
good.
So, man, I love growing outside of my box. So one thing I'm doing is taking little steps, little daily things you can do, and we talk about. Before I get into that, we talk about, like, if you're going to make change, you want to set yourself up for success, right? Mm-hmm. That's the key. Don't set yourself up. Don't, you know, it sounds bad or wrong to say it, but don't dream too big at first. Dream big, but remember that plan, you control that big dream with your plan. So break it down into obtainable steps. Don't necessarily shoot for the moon right off the bat. Like, get to the atmosphere first,
right?
And then from the atmosphere, get to this you know, the space in between, and then.
Well, don't you got to like become an astronaut first or something like that?
But
I don't know, you got to be pretty smart
like
to do that.
You have to. So the first thing that popped into my mind was something we learned in business school.
Ooh, I love business. Tell me, what'd you learn?
It's the SMART method. So
mm-hmm.
It's an acronym for
your goals.
For setting your goals. The key to succeeding is, you know, it stems directly from your goals that you set, and you're aiming to set yourself up for success. So you want your goals to be SMART goals. You want them to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Those sound oddly familiar.
Yes.
Oddly. I think we say specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, but it's still the same thing.
So that is just something to think about if you want to set yourself up for that successful plan. Mm-hmm. You want to be
smart about it.
Yes, you want to be smart about it. That's a really easy way to think about it. But the specific thing, like attack one specific thing at a time.
So if I wanted to be a professional race car driver, enlighten me, would you?
Okay.
Enlighten me.
We will try to work through this.
Let's go through the SMART goal just so we can help people understand. I want to be a professional race car driver. How do I get there?
So the thing my brain goes to first is you probably want to start on a smaller scale. So my first step would probably be I'm going to buy a car that I can race. Even if it's just like...
So don't get a Prius.
At the drag strip or whatever, right? So I'm going to start making goals to not to get a car. It may be like... Or not to start racing yet, but how am I going to save up money to get this car or to afford this car?
Okay.
So you really have to... What do we talk about all the time? It's a pathways thing. We talked about it in business school too. Eating the elephant. How do you eat the elephant?
Oh, one big ass bite at a time.
Yeah, but it's always going to be one bite at a time, you know? So, like, you have to break that process down. How am I going to realistically save up this money to get my car?
All right, so I saved up the money. I got the car.
Okay. Now we're going to figure out how to get registered.
So measurable.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
So measurable would be like you have to set yourself for this scenario, help me out with this one. So measurable would be like I want to save up. I'm buying a car. Mm-hmm. I want to save up this much money.
X amount of months.
Yeah, and that ties into your time bound, but I want to save this much money. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my measurable amount. This is what I'm aiming for.
Got it. Yep.
In this much time, you want to set yourself up a certain amount of days or a calendar or, you know, a calendar month or whatever it is, that this is a finite time frame I've set for myself to make this happen. Because that gives you that puts pressure on you.
Yeah.
It puts accountability on you. Like how you can measure up to, shit, how much have I got? I'm 3 weeks in.
So much for the drive-through.
Yeah. So you set yourself up with these parameters.
Yep.
Is it achievable? Like, can you don't want to save up for a Ferrari if that's not achievable, but can you buy a Corvette? Like that's what we're talking about with achievable. You want to do something that you can 100% believe in yourself and accomplish. And sometimes that's where the one bite at a time really comes in.
And is it realistic or relevant?
Yeah, exactly. So the being realistic, like that's where your true, like that's where the pressure comes in. I've said I can do this. I know I can do this. These people over here, they're helping me try to accomplish this goal. They believe in me too. Like, we know I can do this. Like, I have to follow this to the T.
It's a realistic goal.
Yes, exactly.
And then time bound, of course, is can I do it within a allotted amount of time?
Mm-hmm.
You set a target date, if you will. Can you meet the target date with everything that you've just set yourself up for? So I'm not going to be a professional race car driver just yet, but I'm off to a pretty damn good start to making this happen.
Yeah.
Because I need a car. At least one with a turbo.
Maybe and next thing you know, you're at the drag strip, like running, and
like Ricky Bobby. Yeah,
and then you get into the local race scene somehow, or whatever, and one step at a time.
And it all started with the plan.
Yeah, putting something pen to paper and really like setting stuff up to truly accomplish what you're after.
Well, thank you for enlightening me. I felt like breaking it down for some of our listeners.
I feel like it
can be a little confusing.
Yes, I feel like I did a terrible job explaining the SMART method, but it's one of those things that's kind of self-explanatory,
Well, for
and
some,
it's simplified, like for a reason. But
I mean, I may have like a 15-year-old listening, and he may be like, "Man, I'm gonna get me a Porsche."
That's where
I get $20 a week mowing grass, but I'm gonna go get me a Porsche.
Yeah.
Can he do it with the SMART method? Actually, he could if he wanted to, if he planned it correctly. And I think by just enlightening me right there, and breaking it down, he'll find a way to do it, or she'll find a way to do it.
Yeah. If you stick to your plan and your plan is, like we said, relevant and achievable, the sky's the limit.
And this will help that negative self-talk of I'm not good enough.
Absolutely, because you see, like, there's a formula for success right there when you write it out. So another thing we talked about, this is a pathways thing, and it's another acronym that comes out of the pathways training it's DOWIT. DOWIT.
Remember what it stands for?
Yeah, it stands for do only what it takes. So again, you only have to do what it takes to succeed. You don't have to do a single step beyond that. Do only what it takes. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Keep it obtainable. Stick within your plan and eat that freaking elephant. I got so sick of hearing about that elephant. Eat that elephant one bite at a time.
It's like, if this really works, why are we still eating him? Like, damn it.
So tying it back in, like, dream big. Yeah. Dream big, plan well, take one small step at a time to complete your journey. And that can be, we talk a lot about another pathways tie-in is you can kind of view your life in 3 different segments, or however you want to say that. But life is made up of, like, your personal life, your professional life, your spiritual life.
Now, just to clarify real quick, spiritual does not connotate religion. It does not, by any means, it doesn't reflect any bit of religion. But what it does reflect is kind of what Lori says in graduation, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And spirituality could be anything that you want it to be. Anything you want it to be.
Yeah, for me, it's a big part of my spirituality is what I show the rest of the world, like who I am. You know, like I am. When I went into my training, I remember thinking I want to be this vision I had of what a real man would look like. And that was a big thing with me. I remember talking about that during the training. And it's funny when one day you wake up and you're like, shit, I am that man. You know, like I made it. I am, and it's not a perfect thing. It's not you have to lose all that kind of thinking. It's not a perfect vision or a perfect person. It's just I am living me. I am doing me. I am my spirituality. I'm like bursting at the seams with this, you know, because I'm living me to the best that I know how.
Without
and
a filter.
I'm constantly
no masks.
I'm constantly trying to grow and be better and like affect people and touch people and make this world a better place. And that's where my spirituality really ties in for me, and that grows everything else, in my opinion. It that positively affects your personal side of your life. You know, the relationships you have with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your who you are at work, how you do your work, how you set goals within those perimeters. And it all ties together one way or another. Those three, personal, professional, spiritual, I feel like they always connect to each other.
Of course.
So we know that we talked about, you know, a dream becoming a goal, becoming a plan, and then turning that into action. And then using the SMART method is just a really practical way to make that a reality. And then remembering, do only what it takes. You know, if you're trying to better yourself, don't try to take on so much that you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, I can't say that enough. Like, you want to set yourself up for success. If you take little baby steps at a time and it takes you for freaking ever to accomplish that goal, like, keep at it. Keep doing those baby steps because they add up.
You know what's funny, and I don't know why this is coming to me right now. When I see parents, you know, just taking so much on, we end up teaching our kids to do the same thing. And then we wonder why they get burned out or why they're doing certain things. And if we just take that step back and try to see what we're doing that may be getting in our way, or why we're just exhausted, or why we're, you know, we don't have any energy. I see that a lot with people, some people, some very close people in my life. They just work. And I love their drive. My hope is that they can just give themselves a little grace and a little break sometimes. Absolutely. Because they're just as deserving as anyone else to just relax and enjoy the moments, you know. I don't know where I was going with that, other than that, but just
it was on your heart.
It was just on my heart. So anyhow, go ahead.
Okay, so like a lot of change ties into, and I don't even know exactly how to put this eloquently into words, but to make positive changes in your life, you have to make positive habits in your life. I think that's really important. And you know, there's a lot of factors that tie into any given negative situation that's going on in your life, or negative outlook, or negative actions you're taking. You know, like we talked about my downward spiral. There's a million things that went into that. And I had created a lot of really bad habits in that, whether it was drinking too much, or it was going to places that were toxic, hanging with people that were toxic, whatever it is. I had formed a lot of bad habits in my life. So one thing I always to keep in mind about a bad habit is every bad habit has two things that it contributes to your life. There's negative consequences, and there's a feel-good payoff. Mm-hmm. So feel-good payoffs, I don't know about you, Pam. Feel-good payoffs were tough for me to even comprehend what the hell that meant.
It was for me because I didn't know. Well, I couldn't feel anything, to be honest with you. I was like, I'm so numbed out. I don't know what feeling good even feels like. So, yeah.
So like, if you have a bad habit, and I came up with a few like really simple examples. Eating unhealthy is a bad habit, right? Staying in a toxic relationship. I can talk a little bit about that. Smoking cigarettes, these are things that are bad habits in your life. And they have negative consequences. If you eat unhealthy, your arteries are going to get clogged up. It's not going to be good. There's
the face you just made.
Staying in a toxic relationship. Obviously, you're not allowing yourself to grow or heal, or you're staying in that rut. It has a negative consequence. Smoking cigarettes is obviously bad for your health. I smoked for years, finally quit. But
you sound like I've been smoking for years.
It's just,
excuse me.
It's a bad habit, and it has those negative consequences on your life. Mm-hmm. But it also gives you a feel-good payoff, which is I call it an unhealthy payoff in the moment. It's not really a positive thing, even though it's called a payoff. That's the thing that really confused me when I first heard about that. But eating unhealthy, you know what? My arteries are gonna get clogged, but a burger's fucking good, you know?
Well, that's your feel-good payoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Tastes good.
That's a good example. So staying in a toxic relationship, maybe I'm dealing with all these negative consequences, but
the feel-good payoff for that is you don't have to you avoid conflict.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about it.
My thing was, at least I'm not alone.
Yep, that's a big one.
I have something. Mm-hmm. And it's sad, but that was my payoff. How pathetic is that,
But the long-term consequence is what?
Yes. Smoking cigarettes. I mean, shit, it lets you de-stress for a minute.
It's
it lets
cool,
you just,
bro.
Yeah, I smoked for years. You smoke a cigarette after you're stressed out, you just go smoke a cigarette, and it relaxes you.
Dude, I used to smoke. Ugh. Yeah.
It's just, it has a feel-good payoff.
Yeah.
It's not a really good payoff for you. It's just you harming your body more in the moment. But it's a feel-good payoff. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So just remember, every bad habit has a negative consequence and a feel-good payoff. So it's really, when you start looking at your bad habits and you look at what those feel-good payoffs, that's where you have to start doing the pros and cons on what are the positive payoffs, like real good result. Like, what is the truly good result? How does that getting that true payoff better for you than what your feel good payoff is? And that's really something that struck a chord with me, was looking at, okay, this is what my life is right now. What do I stand to lose by sticking with these bad habits versus the positives I get off of working my ass off to get these new good habits in my life? So I think you have to remember that a good habit, a truly good habit, brings you a real good result instead of a feel good payoff. So hopefully I elaborated that well enough for y'all to understand. So like the good habits, if you're eating healthier as opposed to the unhealthy eating, you get weight loss, discover your self-worth, like a more positive self-image of yourself, really start, feeling beautiful about yourself or whatever. There's a lot of different things you can talk about, but improved health, and those things, if you really start adding them up, they start outweighing that momentary pleasure of the juicy burger or the cigarette or whatever it is. And you have to find, if that's truly important to you, if your goal, your dream to be this healthier person, this better version of you, like, what are you willing to put into it to make that difference? If you really want it. Yeah. So, another thing is, real good results, they take time to come by. So it goes right back to our damn elephant we keep talking about. It takes time for these things to happen. You got to do it one bite at a time. So that's where you have to allow yourself some grace sometimes to make some mistakes, to stumble, but stay after it. Stay
consistent.
And remember that if you're doing it right, you're using the SMART method. So you're time bound. So set a realistic time as well. Not just a realistic goal, but what is a realistic time for you, and stick with it, and know that change doesn't come overnight. That's the big thing.
And one thing too is like setting those realistic time bound methods, and you actually hit those commitments, you're gonna feel really good about yourself. Setting unrealistic time, measurable time. Like if I'm gonna work out 3 times a week at an hour at a time. All right, are you ready for that? Or are you coming off of a knee injury? Can you really hit an hour 3 times a week?
Absolutely.
Well, maybe 10 minutes. But I know I can go for a half hour. Okay, yeah. But at least you hit your 10 minutes. You did it. And then you start...
Do only what it takes.
Exactly.
That's where that ties directly in.
Exactly. Glad you said that.
So I pay attention sometimes. But... it's amazing for me how true that rings, though, because I just did a refresh with my Pathways training.
So you went back and you can, and after you graduate, we encourage graduates to go back about a year after they start to refresh the last portion of the training, which we call P3, which is you graduate after you're done with that. So that's what he means by refreshing it.
So a lot of this is kind of I have some passion around this because a lot of this ties into that particular training.
Okay. You just refreshed last month, right?
Yes. So like making changes in your life, following through with those changes. So one challenge I set up for myself was I was going to do 5 minutes of journaling each evening. So, you think, well, that's not a big commitment. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to say 10 minutes because, shit, if I don't do 10 minutes worth, I'm going to feel like I failed that night, So baby steps. Mm-hmm. I've said I'm going to put 5 minutes of a 24-hour day to doing this one assignment for myself. And basically what I'm doing is, we've gone over my story. You know that obviously I've had a lot of trust things I've gone through with my divorce, with my the toxic relationships I went through. And for me, even to this day, with me being in such a better headspace and such a better state of mind, I still get tied down with that stuff from time to time. I still deal with trust issues. I still deal with the guilt from the past. It's just I have tools in place to deal with those moments. So one of the things one of the reasons I decided to give myself this challenge to journal 5 minutes a day for a 30-day period. Again, it's time bound. Mm-hmm. I said for 30 days, for 1 month, I'm gonna be determined to see this plan out. So for 5 minutes a night, for 30 days, I'm gonna sit down and journal about what my fiance teaches me that day through her love.
I love that.
So after 30 days, I can go back and see day by day what little nugget I got out of that day to to see what she did for me, what she did to me, what she taught me, how she helped me that day. Every day's been different. And I'm about a week and a half into it now, and or 2 weeks into it, whatever it is, and every day is on like a total different end of the spectrum. You know, something funny that happened that day, or something like spiritually we connected, or whatever it is. Like, I'm all over the place with this. But I go back and reread a couple days later what I wrote, and I'm like, damn, that was deep. Because if you just allow yourself 5 minutes to really get in your heart, just go into your heart and talk about what that woman that I love taught me that day. And after 30 days, I'm sitting there looking, you know, I'm going to look back, and that's going to be this is what I miss out on if I don't make these changes in my life. That's my pros and cons right there.
Or you could flip it and be like, this is what I get for making the changes in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So it's all how you see it, but either way, it's still a really cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cool idea.
So by doing this, I'm not really making a daily change. I'm just making a daily commitment to stick to this plan. And it's something really small, but it has a very large impact on me. So that's an example of how I decided to take a challenge and make a very small change in my life.
So what does your fiance get now that she would not have gotten had you not worked on you?
Man, it's funny because this one's a kind of interesting thing for me to answer. She got me hot off the press from my Pathways training. So I'll tell you, David was on fucking fire.
Yeah, you were.
At that time, and I still am, but man, I was just... It's like you discover this new person inside of you that you never knew existed. You are that fucking man, like I said before. You are like... You're on fire. That was my personal experience. I really was. And that's what attracted me to her. Or attracted her to me. You know what I mean?
Sure. I saw you on fire. I saw your graduation. You damn near came out of your Converse.
So, I mean, for sure, like, for her, she saw this person that was blossoming. She saw this person that was in the middle of, like, a huge growth spurt. So for her to see me today still battling to get better, even though now my better comes in much smaller quantities, you know. I'm on a slow growth plan now, where I was growing from the floor when she first saw me, so it was just this like rocket ship up. She sees a person that still fights his ass off for himself, and I think, and this is like based off our conversations, me and my fiance's conversations. She sees someone that inspires, and that's what she gets. If I continue to make these changes to better myself, I continue to inspire her to do the same, and that's a two-way street, mm-hmm. because you just bounce right off of each other
when you're healthy.
When you're healthy, yeah. And continue to move upwards. So for me, not only does she get a man that's not afraid to grow himself and push his limits, but she gets someone that's gonna always be there to push her also. That's huge for me.
That's so cool, man. I want to get married. Actually, I don't. Not right now, anyways. Do you have any last words you want to share, or where are you at with all this?
Yeah, real quick, I'll talk about another. It's a book I read.
Okay.
It's by the author's name is Sean Whalen. and the book is called How to Make Shit Happen. I thought it was a really cool book. It kind of mirrors a lot of what we go over in Pathways, and kind of where my trajectory was after Pathways, how to stay on that trajectory. He breaks down your daily life, like the daily ways to look at your life, as broken into 4 sections. You have power, which is your body, passion, which is your relationships, purpose, which is your mind, and production, which is your business. So kind of like I was talking about earlier, you look at life, personal, professional, spiritual. He's basically broken it down to body, mind, and like body, mind, your relationships, and your business. So if you want to think about it like that, just some notes I talked about. He basically explains this, and he calls this core 4. It's the core 4, and he explains it as the daily structure he uses to get things done and eliminate chaos and have a clear path to his goals. So it ties into setting goals. So basically what it is, in a nutshell, is every day you establish plans to address one specific thing, at least one specific thing in each one of these 4 categories.
Every day.
Every day. So I did like a little example, and I found this really helpful. And it's really hard to do every day one thing, but fuck, it makes a big difference if you can if you can just have the dedication to try this for a week. See how different you feel, like how accomplished you feel. It's a really cool feeling. So for power, for your body, you want to use like the SMART method. You want to be very specific. You want to, set time boundaries. You want to be detailed with these. So for power, let's say I would work out at the gym from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow.
Training chest and back. So I'm very specific about I'm going to be at the gym for an hour at this exact time, and I'm going to be training these exact muscle groups. So you want to stick to exactly what you want to do. Purpose. I'm going to listen to a radio broadcast called Pathways to Victory on 90.9 from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m.
And that has nothing to do with, I would say, this is a different type of Pathways. This is Pathways to Victory.
Yes.
All right, because I'm like, when did we get that?
So,
all right, cool.
So for me, that's my mind.
Okay. I like it.
For me, my mind, I'm spiritually, I'm growing my mind. So this is my example day, not a reflection on anything else. But I'm going to work out at the gym that morning. I'm going to listen to my radio broadcast to grow spiritually in my mind. For passion, I'm going to set a reoccurring alarm on my phone as a reminder to buy flowers for my fiance once a month, just because.
You're so squishy, man.
So that day, like, that's not even going to pay off for another month, necessarily. But I made the action.
That's
I did the thing. And I took a step to make that happen. So it's all about action. Every day you're taking these actions. And then the last of the 4 is production. So that's your business. So I will spend 2 hours today clearing my emails and following up with all my client quotes that still had to be addressed from the previous week. Or you might even want more finite, like I need to take care of this account or that company or whatever. You want to keep that specific also. But that's an example of a core 4 day.
And that's simple. It's just, so for me, and if you know me, some people do, some people don't. Organizing stresses me the hell out.
Me too.
I hate planning. I feel like if you want me to plan fun, I'm going to turn into the biggest baby and throw a temper tantrum. Because why do you need to plan fun? Like, I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Don't tell me the time and day on a spreadsheet how I need to have fun. Like, that drives me bananas. But with that, it's a stretch for me to do, like, reading that list that you were reading was stressing me the fuck out. and it's so simple.
Yeah.
But to think about what I want to do, I'm like, oh shit.
So,
like, it just, like, I can't even talk. It stresses me out.
I won't even lie to you. I tried the Core 4, and I tried it like 2 weeks straight. Mm-hmm. And I got like 2 days, 3 days, and I could not complete a week. And finally I completed a week, and it's like huge victory. Like you feel like you just... like
you just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Because you knew, like, okay, I'm falling short. What am I doing wrong? I'm falling short, you know, and you're addressing these things
attitude
internally.
Too.
And yeah, once you that's your payoff. Your what did we call it earlier?
The feel good payoff?
No, you're real good.
Your real good payoff.
Your real good result.
There you go.
That's your real good result, is when you finally accomplish that, and damn, you just set the world on fire, because you know and that's where you get those real good results, and it keeps you going. So it's not for everybody, and I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. Change is fucking hard.
Really?
Yeah.
I love change.
Change can be hard. And I've always welcomed it, and I'll continue to grow. I'll continue to push myself and get outside the box, like coming on here today. But change can be hard, and you have to stick with it. And the reason I wanted to discuss the things we did today is because you have to keep in mind that, you know, if you're gonna do something hard, set yourself up for success. Mm-hmm. Don't set yourself up to just fall to pieces. Like, these are some really, really obtainable, you know, really good ways to obtain those dreams that you're chasing after. And I just think that there's nothing like accomplishing a dream. Like, I when I went through my training and discovered who I could truly be, and I started to become that man, I can't even explain to you how passionate I am about that. How when I meet someone and I get on that topic, I light up. I light up, and I just get, like, probably overwhelming, to be honest. But, like, having a bit of positivity in your life when you've lived in the darkness for so long and you've just deprived yourself of that, like, change is worth it. Change is so worth it. It's just an incredible feeling to accomplish, like, a life change.
And you say change a lot. How have you... Do you feel like this has changed your legacy?
Without a doubt. I feel like before, my legacy would have been pretty non-existent because I was just living my life in the shadows. And the biggest change for me is discovering my self-worth. Discovering that I am somebody special, that I can really step out and be David, be the David that I didn't even know I could be, you know. So now I live my life not to be in the shadows. I live my life to be out there and connect and be part of something bigger and push myself and push others and connect with people and touch people's lives that will allow me a chance to even have a legacy. Like, I'll never settle for the sidelines again. I'll never settle for the shadows again. I will never settle for status quo. I'm always going to push myself. I'm always going to be, you know, at the forefront of the people that surround me. I want to be a big part of people's lives now. I want to be noticed. That's big for me. Like, we talked earlier just in conversation, I was the guy in school that knew everybody. Everyone knows who I am, but no one knew me. I didn't have friends. I had acquaintances. Everything was surface level. And I truly live to be, like, to blow that out of the water. You know? Like, I live to be, I want you to know me. I want you to see me. I want you to get something from me. And that's been the biggest difference for me, is my relationships with others. Even those that I've always known or have always been a part of my life. Just growing those relationships has been big for me.
That's awesome. Well, I think we've definitely stretched this one out, and I'm not complaining. I'm just going to say I'm pretty blessed to have a soul in this room that's willing to do that. And thank you, David, so much for being here today.
No problem.
And real quick, what's your contract?
My contract is, I love myself, a peaceful man empowered through the grace of God.
Yes, you are. And if you don't know what a contract is, it's something that we get in our training when we've gone through the depths of hell and we're standing on that mountaintop. We get to claim the man or woman that we are, and
absolutely. And
it's so beautiful to witness and to be a part of that. So, thank you again, David, for being here today.
No problem, pal.
Thank you guys for listening. And if you guys want to know more about it, I'm going to put another plug in for them. It's pathwayscoretraining.org. You can find them online, of course, social media outlets. Or hell, just message me if you want to know more about it. And I'll be more than happy to tell you about it. So thank you guys again. And you can also find me, because I got to put a plug in for me, at 2200 Taps. That's 2200taps.com. You will find everything there, all the links to my social media. And if you are up for fighting these fights and joining this army of people that are wanting to help save lives and make the change, give us a shout. And we'll talk to you later. So until next time, peace out.